The 2025 budget speech by Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana, and I'm joined by seasoned economist, and this is Dr Mthokozisi Tshuma. You were formerly at the United Nations Development Programme, and you've also had a lot of experience in terms of research and advisory when it comes to South Africa's economy. So we're really blessed to have you today, and I'm really interested in your insights. I want to start with talking about money in. Right? And how serious is government's budget shortfall right now?
What we're expecting, according to the MTTPS, we are likely to have a shortfall of around 22 billion this year. And in the next coming 2 years, what Minister Godongwana has indicated to be around 31 billion. So there is a need to find ways how we could raise this additional revenue to ensure that we are able to meet our expenditure requirements. Right.
So the minister is going to have to find money somewhere, Dr. Tshuma, and that's where the controversy seems to be coming in. Because must he get it from already cash-strapped taxpayers, or go the route that SARS is suggesting? So we heard Commissioner Edward Kisweta saying that the tax revenue collection body can bring in between 700 and 800 billion rand in taxes that they've not been able to collect. Do you think we've applied our minds sufficiently to that? We'll talk about VAT in just a moment, but do you think we've applied our minds sufficiently to that?
Yes, I think I will support the proposal of the Commissioner of SARS that let us try to improve tax administration, tax collection, to be able to plug that gap that exists in terms of revenue collection. Because other initiatives are likely to impact negatively on our economy, or negatively on the livelihoods of our citizens. If one talks about VAT, or if you talk about CIT and pay as you earn. So it is ideal to look at improving tax collection and tax administration. Well,
I want to bring the conversation now into your wheelhouse. And your wheelhouse is all about how we create inclusive growth in an economy like South Africa's. We have been, I know South Africans are prisoners of hope, but we're also prisoners of low growth. Since 2014, we haven't been able to breach 2% growth in this economy. So we are effectively stuck. What is causing this persistent stuckness? And how do we trampoline our way out of it?
Yeah, so there are a number of bottlenecks that have constrained our economic growth. You're quite right that we have been trapped in a low growth trajectory since 2014. So we need to implement a number of structural reforms in your network industries that we have seen government rolling out in the last couple of years through what we call it Operation Vulindlela. We have seen some little bit of stabilization in energy generation or reliable electricity supply, issues around logistic networks, which is your ports and the rail space. So these are areas that government needs to continue to focus on, as well as being able to attract infrastructure investment. You know, we need to allocate more of our budgets around infrastructure investment, as it is likely to boost economic activity. So there are a number of structural constraints that have existed within our economy, which have prevented us from growing our economy beyond 2% in the last couple of years. Issues around high economic concentration. There is limited competition in a number of sectors. The banking sector, you have got the top big four banks in telecom space, in electricity. We used to have Eskom. We are seeing the unbanking of Eskom. Hopefully that will create competition within that sector. In the port space and then within Transnet, there was concentration within that space. Our port charges were regarded as high according to international standards.
Yeah.
So having economic regulators in the port, rail space, and in the water sector, and the electricity supply, these are some of the issues that will enable us to achieve economic growth. But we still also have some binding constraints around the skills mismatch, which is a common thing that have constrained our economy. We have experienced low productivity in a number of years. So what area, how do we achieve higher productivity? Issues around innovations, issues around improving our labor force.
These seem to be opportunities, like, don't hold back and tell me honestly how you feel. I mean, when you, and we'll come back to the medium-term budget speech, because effectively it gave us a lot of milestones that are going to be covered. It's not like we're going to experience any major departures from what he's already told us a couple of months ago, and we can come back to that topic in a moment. But do you get frustrated as an inclusive policy specialist when you look at the decisions that South Africa is making, the decisions that the finance minister is making to really transform our reality in South Africa, to get us growing again, to put people into serviceable jobs, to get rid of some of the bottlenecks you've just described?
Yes, it is quite frustrating. Why am I saying so? If you look at the unemployment figures that came out yesterday or day before yesterday, it says our unemployment is sitting at around 31%, and the graduates' unemployment is around 8%. So within an inclusive economy, you would want everyone to actively participate within an economy, whether someone has got skills or does not have skills. This is the kind of economy that you would want everyone to fully participate. So there are a number of areas that we need to look at. Promoting entrepreneurship, ensuring that youth actively participate in our economy. SMMEs, township economy, these are some of the areas that we've structured as an economy to ensure that we achieve an inclusive and sustainable growth going forward. So these are some of the areas that perhaps we need to revisit.
Yeah, I'm going to just urge you to have a nice warm cup of chamomile tea at 2 o'clock this afternoon when you listen to the finance minister share his plans for how we're going to spend the money this year. But let's go back to the balance sheet, right? Let's go back to the spending and what we saw in the medium-term budget address. And you look at the line items of expenditure against the backdrop of our latest debt to GDP ratios projected to peak at around 75-76% 2025-2026. By all accounts, it is an undesirable position to be in, because the peak for developing economies like ours, or emerging market economies, is supposed to be at around 60% as the maximum sustainable debt of an economy of our size. So how worrisome is this for you? What language should the sirens be blaring, especially when you go back to that third line item around expenditure in the medium-term budget address, which was how we service this very debt?
Yeah, so we spend a lot of our revenue collections around servicing debt, which is problematic. What does that do? It crowds out expenditure in other areas of society, like around spending on health, education. So you would want a situation where we are able to continue embarking on fiscal consolidation, cutting inefficiencies that exist within expenditure in a number of areas. So you'll want to have a situation whereby debt service costs are being reduced. How could that be achieved? You need to grow your economy. If we grow our economy, we will be able to reduce our debt. We will be able to collect more revenues. We'll have an increased tax base. So you are able to collect more revenues. So there is more that needs to be done to ensure that we are able to reduce debt service costs. Because if we continue on that trajectory path, it means we won't have enough cash to finance infrastructure investment.
And the way our viewers can think about it is, if in your own home you're spending more money just servicing debt, which doesn't necessarily improve your quality of life, or you can't even purchase new products, just keeping that debt stabilized, it means that you can't do anything else. You won't be able to food, you can't send your kids to school. So it's a similar thing on a grander scale when it comes to South Africa. I don't want to let you go until we talk about some of the foreign policy machinations that have been raging the last couple of weeks, and a lot of talk about AGOA and whether we lose AGOA given the diplomatic row between Washington and Pretoria. We know that that deal secures us around 2.5 billion rand in exports. Those exports perambulate mostly around automotives and agriculture and things like that. So what happens in a context where that is imperiled and that could add a further shockwave to our economy? What are you seeing practically?
So what I can start with is that I don't see the envoys being able to convince Trump administration otherwise around the transformative policies that the country is currently rolling out, which are helping us to address the structural challenges or the legacies of apartheid. So I foresee a situation whereby we are likely to lose out on AGOA, but I've heard a lot of people saying there will be catastrophic effects of those losses of AGOA. But looking at one of the studies that was released by Brooklyn Institution, it says that the impact on exports and GDP is likely to be minimal or small. So you are likely to lose in terms of exports around 2.7% as a result of being not able to benefit from AGOA.
Yeah.
And the other thing that we need to realize is that US is one of our top key trading partners. I think it's the third country in terms of exports. You have got China, you have got Germany, and the other countries. And what we need to realize is that trade occurs in a two-way process. Of course, we have had trade surplus with the US in the last couple of years. As a result of AGOA, we have our automotive and agricultural sector have benefited. But it doesn't imply that by them implementing tariffs on our goods, they are not likely to lose out. They are likely to lose out because they get a lot of critical minerals from us, your chrome, titanium, and these other minerals.
And the challenge then is to also start looking as South Africans for other markets, new markets. But this is a fascinating chat. I wish we could have had more time. Thank you so much for yours. Really do appreciate it. Dr. Mthokozisi Tshuma.